Peace, peace. Welcome back. Welcome back, everybody. Hope everybody had a good day. Hope everybody have a good night. Welcome back to Rational Mind, or I should say Rational Lens podcast, where logic comes into focus. And I'm your host. I go by the name of Min Kepre Ra. A lot of people know me as Ra, but my Egyptian name is Min Kepre Ra. And today we're going to talk about some current events. We're going to talk about Donald Trump, and we're going to talk about BlackRock, Larry Flynt, who's the CEO of BlackRock, and we're going to talk about how these two is coming together to digitalize the New World Order. And the reason why I say that is because Larry Flynt, who's one of the biggest persons on the earth right now, probably one of the richest people on the earth, he owns BlackRock, and we know that BlackRock manage a whole lot of corporations, holds an asset of 11 trillion. So BlackRock is one of the biggest beasts on the earth right now. Let me set up my computer and we can get into this, because we're going to talk about how Donald Trump and Larry Fink and BlackRock is planning to globally digitalize the whole planet. And they're doing this by getting into cryptocurrency. And I told a lot of people when cryptocurrency first came out that they better make their money now, because the window's going to close. Because we know when cryptocurrency came out, it was a decentralized currency, meaning that the Federal Reserve didn't have no control over it. Let me plug my thing in. Right? And everybody was making this money, cryptocurrency, and investing and making a whole lot of money. Now, BlackRock, Larry Fink, Donald Trump, they are getting into it. So once you have a billionaire like Larry Fink investing into something like cryptocurrency and creating his own currency with the money and power that he got, he can control and dominate the market. Matter of fact, this is where the decentralization of cryptocurrency comes to an end, and it's going to be controlled and dominated by billionaires. So it's just like if the Federal Reserve took over cryptocurrency. It's the same thing when a billionaire puts his money into it and starts to control and dominate it, right? So let me get my computer set up, because all these facts I don't know off my head, so I got to use my computer sometimes. Some things I know off my head, some things I don't, you know. So let me set my computer up. But welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Rational Lens podcast, where logic comes into focus. And like I said, I'm doing this podcast to bring people back to start thinking and using their logic and reasoning again. And so that's the reason why I named it Rational Lens, you understand? Because rationalization, meaning a way of using the mind mathematically according to the universe. And that's my definition. When you rationalize or you use logic and reasoning, that means that you're using your brain according to the natural laws of the universe. And that's a mathematical formula. You understand? And so we got to get back in tune with the universe and thinking with the universe, because when we do that, that's when we're thinking with God and we're one with God. And you understand? And all of our dreams and manifestations happen when that happens. The reason why it doesn't happen is because of being out of sync with the universe and the higher power. You understand? So We got to get back to mathematically thinking, and that's rationalization. And lens, I use lens as a metaphor for the third eye, which is the mind, the spiritual mind. You understand? So the more we advance spiritually, the more that our spiritual eye opens up and come into focus, and then we can see and decode the matrix. So let me bring my computer up, and we're gonna get into Donald Trump and Larry Fink and BlackRock and how they're digitalizing the New World Order. So let me turn my computer on. Give me 1 minute. I gotta put this passcode in. Give me 1 minute. This computer's acting funny. Give me 1 minute. This computer is slow, y'all. All right. So we ready to go. Ready to go. And I hope everybody have their eyes open for this, because this New World Order that they're bringing in now is the one they've been talking about for a very long time, with a mark of the beast and everything being digital and dealing with computers and robots, AI and all that stuff is coming into fruition. And Donald Trump and Larry Fink are going to be the ones that bring us into that age. All right. So when I talk about Donald Trump and Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, they're trying to bring us into this digitalized New World Order by using cryptocurrency. You understand? And cryptocurrency is going to be the conduit that they use to digitalize the world and bring everything into a one world order with a one world government, bank, military, and social construct. You understand? Being ran by AI, microchips, and supercomputers. You understand? So when we talk about Donald Trump partnering up with Larry Fink, which is the CEO of BlackRock, and I want to give y'all some facts on BlackRock, right? They hold 11 trillion in assets, right? Let's bring this up. And those that know. But I want to give y'all all the facts. So I want to read it off the computer. So it says BlackRock Incorporation is an American multinational investment company founded in 1988, right? Initially as an enterprise risk management and fixed income institutional asset manager, right? So BlackRock manages people assets. So if you have a problem with your assets, you call BlackRock, and these mathematicians and these financial moguls or geniuses help you get your finances and everything in order, right? It says BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with 12.5 trillion. You hear that? BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with 12.5 trillion in assets under management as of 2025. So when we talk about cryptocurrency and we talk about Larry Flint, who's the CEO, getting together with the president, Donald Trump, right? And they're investing this much of money into cryptocurrency, we can see how somebody of his stature and his power with his money can digitalize or bring in this globalization, a new world order, because really all it takes is money and power. And the more people that you have under your umbrella that you manage their assets, the more big and powerful you become, and the more your arms can reach out to influence the world. He already has the president in his pocket. So in actuality, the United States president is being controlled by BlackRock, Larry Fink, the CEO. You understand? It says BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with 12.5 trillion in assets under the management as of 2025, right? The headquarters in New York City. So we already see Babylon. That's what they call New York, Babylon. You understand? And we know what Babylon is according to the Bible aspect. Babylon is the harlot, the whore. And in the Bible, they say that nations shall get drunk off her iniquity. You understand? So we know what the whore symbolizes, or the prostitute. That's the lunar vibration. And when we talk about the lunar, we're talking about the moon. You understand? And we know that the woman correlates with the moon. You understand? In actuality, the woman really correlates with the sun, just like the man. But as her downfall, she started to correlate with the moon. And we know that the moon doesn't really have light of its own. It reflects the light of the sun. You understand? So the moon is parasitic because it sucks energy. It drains energy from the power source, which we call the sun. And so as the woman fell in her position in nature and the universe, she became that. You understand? So when we talk about Babylon in the Bible, Revelations, that Babylon is falling, and the symbol of the whore or the harlot, you understand, having the cup filled with fornication, getting the nations drunk off her fornication. We see that all around the world. We see people drinking, drugging, access with sex, just being immoral according to the laws and regulations of the Most High. You understand? Matter of fact, let me just give you that. Because that's the symbolism when we talk about Babylon and her being the whore, right? And we also know Babylon is where the towers fell and the language got confused. You understand? So the biblical narrative of Babylon involving the story of the Tower of Babel, where humanity attempts to reach heaven by building a tower, was thwarted by God, confusing the language. So confusing the language, confusing people. And we know that the devil is the force of confusion, right? Later, God used Babylon to punish the exiled Israelites during the Neo-Babylonian Empire. That was back then, the Neo-Babylonian Empire. The Babylonian Empire now is New York City with the big buildings, symbolizing the towers and the drinking, the smoking, the fornication, and all this disgust that's going on in that city that we call New York. You understand? This is the same thing that went on in Babylon, right? It says a period that included the prophet Daniel. Finally, The book of Revelations described Babylon as symbolic, the great city of the mother of prostitutes, and an earth-based power that will be ultimately destroyed by God, representing the spirit of seduction, rebellion, and corruption. I want to say that again. Babylon, which now Babylon is New York City, right? The towers, the big buildings, Empire State Building, Twin Towers, they got a lot of skyscrapers, right? And it says in the book of Revelations, Babylon is described as symbolic, the great city, the mother prostitute, right? We know what a prostitute does. She sells herself for money, for the transaction for money. And we see that in the city of New York. People sell themselves for fame and money and things of that nature. They don't have no morality. Everything is about money, and they're willing to do anything and go to any extreme to get money. That's selling yourself. So that makes the symbolism of a prostitute, right? And it says, and an earth-based power. We know that New York is the financial capital of the world. It's all about money. That city has a lot of power because a lot of money is transferred there. You understand? It's the financial capital of the world, New York, right? It says the earth-based power that will be ultimately destroyed by God, representing the spirit of seduction, right? That's fornication or manipulating a person with sex, right? Rebellion, going against the natural laws and order of what the Most High's power spirit articulates, and corruption. And we see that in the city of New York, robbing, stealing, killing, raping, extortion, all types of corruption goes on in this big city. So when we talk about Babylon, that's what we're talking about, right? So let's get back to talking about BlackRock, because it says BlackRock is headquartered in New York City, Babylon, right? It says BlackRock has 70 offices in 30 countries, right? In 30 countries, and clients in 100 countries. BlackRock is the manager of iShares Group of exchange trading funds, and along with Fidelity, Vanguard, and State Street, it is considered one of the big four index fund managers. It's Aladdin software. And we're going to talk about Aladdin. Aladdin is a software that they use to manage these assets, to manage these rich corporations and people assets. Aladdin, because we know there was a movie called Aladdin, right? And it had to do with magic and sorcery. The magic carpet of Aladdin, you understand? And he had the lamp and the genie. The genie symbolizes the demon or the devil. When we talk about the jinn in Islam, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a genie, somebody that deals with magic and sorcery and things of that nature, right? A jinn, we know, is demonic. You understand? So when we talk about Aladdin, the symbolism in Aladdin, the movie, magic and sorcery and dealing with the jinn, right? Which is another aspect of demons or dealing with the devil. You understand? And it's no coincidence that they have a software, BlackRock, called Aladdin, right? It says it's Aladdin software keeps track of investment portfolios for many major financial institutions, and its BlackRock Solutions divisions provides financial risk management service. As of 2023, BlackRock was ranked 229th on the Fortune 500 list of the largest in the United States corporation by revenue. Understand? The founder, Robert S. Capito, Larry Fink, Suzanne Warner, right? Their headquarters is in New York. And I just explained to you the symbolism of Babylon, the Tower of Babylon, and the confusing of languages, right? The dividing and separating people, and the whore, the harlot, being the mother prostitute, selling herself immorally for financial gain and power. You understand? And they talked about her being rebellious, dealing with seduction and corruption, right? These are all the things that deal with the city or of the vibration of New York. If you've ever been there or lived there, you'll understand what I'm talking about, right? So that's BlackRock, and they're also affiliated with Fidelity, right? Which Fidelity is an investment formerly known as Fidelity Management and Research, right? Headquarters in Boston, Massachusetts, provided financial services. Established in 1946, the company is one of the largest asset managers in the world with 5.8 trillion in discretionary, right? Vanguard is another affiliation, the Vanguard Group. The Vanguard Group Incorporation is an American registered investment advisor founded on May 1st, 1975 and based in Malvern, Pennsylvania, with about 11 trillion in global assets. So we have BlackRock, 12.5 trillion, Fidelity, 5.8 billion. I think that was, right? Let me go back and make sure that I'm right. Yeah, 5.8 trillion. So they're dealing with trillions. Fidelity, 5.8 trillion. BlackRock, 12.5 trillion. Vanguard is dealing with 11 trillion in global assets under the management as of January 31st, 2025. It is the largest provider of mutual funds and the second largest provider of exchange traded funds, ETFs, in the world after BlackRock, iShares. Additional to mutual funds and ETFs, which is exchange trading funds, right? Vanguard offers brokerage service, educational account service, financial planning, asset management, and trust services. Several mutual funds managed by Vanguard are ranked at the top of the list of the mutual funds in the United States by assets under management. Along with BlackRock and State Street, Vanguard is considered to be one of the big three index. So you got BlackRock, you got Vanguard, and you got State Street, and you got Fidelity. These are asset management companies, and they deal with trillions of dollars. So them together, the power of their money together can influence the world. So when I talk about Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, and him influencing the world into a new world order and using cryptocurrency to digitalize this new world order to bring everything under one, this is what I'm talking about. And then you also have affiliates Fidelity, right, which is 5.8 trillion. Vanguard, 11 trillion, right? And State Street. Let's see how much money they dealing with. State Street Corporation is an American multinational financial service and bank holding company headquarters at 1 Congress Street in Boston. It is the second oldest continuously operating in U.S. bank, tracing its roots to Union Bank, chartered in 1792. As of 2024, State Street is one of the world's largest asset managers, custodian with approximately 4.3 trillion. So you got State Street Corporation, 4.7 trillion, BlackRock, 12.5 trillion, Fidelity, 5.8 trillion, and Vanguard. How much Vanguard was? I forgot. Vanguard is dealing with 11 trillion. So these are trillionaires, and they're handling assets and managing different assets of these big time corporations. So his power and influence, along with these other corporations that he affiliated with, and Donald Trump has the power to influence the world to globalization, or what we call a new world order, right? And digitalize it through cryptocurrency, which a lot of people thought that cryptocurrency was going to stay decentralized, but eventually now that window is closing because these trillionaires are coming in and taking control, and they're going to centralize this money into one currency so that they can bring in this one global order. So I hope y'all got that. Right? So Larry Fink also is appointed. He's also appointed to the World Economic Forum, right? So before I talk about the World Economic Forum and Larry Fink being appointed to the World Economic Forum, let me tell you where Donald Trump comes in with all this at. So what a lot of people don't know, the only reason Donald Trump really got his position of being president and doing what he's doing is because he was in debt to these billionaires. They were loaning him money. He was investing money that they was giving him, and he kept on messing up the money. So the only way that he can pay back that money that these corporations loaned him was to play the position of being president. And in the mix of him being president, he's able to pay back what he owed. So these big corporations, like the Federal Reserve, like BlackRock, like State Street Corporation, like Fidelity, like Vanguard, these big corporations, they control the president. They control the government. They the ones that decide who's going to be president. So when we talk about the president election, we know that you have the Electoral College, right? And then you have the regular votes. The regular votes are the votes for the people. But the people votes don't count. The real votes that count in an election is the Electoral College. And the Electoral College, a lot of people don't know, are corporate America. So it's corporate America who puts the president in office because the United States is a corporation. I told y'all this before. There's two United States. One that was set up by the indigenous people of the land, which were your Native Americans, who had their own constitution and they had their own sovereignty. What I mean by that is when the Native Americans, the indigenous people of the land, created their government and their constitution to go with it, which was under the Article of Confederation, and you had the first Congress and the second Congress. And in Congress, these presidents came together, you understand, as a political union. So back then, each state was sovereign. The states had their own president. That's what I mean. So when we talk about Alabama, New York, Jersey, Delaware, each state had their own president. So each state had their own sovereignty, and they came together under a political union that was under the Article of Confederation. And I explained to y'all what a confederation is. A confederation is when a political union of people come together and work together as one, but they still maintain their sovereignty. It's different from a federation. You understand? The federation, which comes from the word federatio or fedos or photos, right, is a central government. You understand? And what I mean by central government, I mean that these states that we have, they gave up their sovereignty to be under one power and be dictated by one power. That one power on the earth is the Federal Reserve Bank. So your Federal Reserve Bank is the centralized power on the planet. And the Federal Reserve is ran by Zionist Jews. These billionaires who are Zionist Jews who made the Federal Reserve. Your people like your Rothschilds, Rockefellers, DuPonts, Wahlbergs, etc. You understand? They're Zionist Jews that own and control the Federal Reserve. So the Federal Reserve is not really federal. They just made it federal. But there's an outside force of these Zionist Jews that control the Federal Reserve Bank. And the Federal Reserve Bank is the central power on the planet because it controls the currency and the money. And we know that each state is a corporation. So that's what happened when your conquistadors or your European settlers came over here and started taking land and resource and enslaving the natural indigenous people, right? They took over the land. And so they started to incorporate the land under one power of what we call the British Empire. You understand? So the British Empire incorporated the states and turned them into corporations. So you have New York, the corporation, Jersey, the corporation, Pennsylvania, the corporation. You understand? And they turned the people into corporations, which they call artificial people. So the people are corporations, and the states, they turned into corporations too. You understand? This is what Britain did. So when the United States, when the Revolutionary War happened and they broke away from Britain, you understand? They really didn't break away economically. You understand? So even though they broke away and they, was supposed to be their own independent entity, but economically they never really broke away from Britain. So Britain really still had control of what we call the United States Corporation, and they incorporated all the states under their control and power. So that power is the Federal Reserve. So when we talk about a person like Larry Fink, who controls BlackRock and the president, Larry Fink is controlling Donald Trump. He's a trillionaire. He got enough money to buy the government. You understand? And he has enough money to dictate and tell Donald Trump what to do because he's paying Donald Trump. You understand? So this is how things go. So when we're talking about people like Larry Fink influencing Donald Trump, this is what happened. Donald Trump was in debt, right? Donald Trump went in debt 6 times, right? We're going to talk about the times Donald Trump went in debt. Let me bring it up because this is real important. Real important. Because y'all need to understand why this man is in office. You understand? It's an opportunity for him to pay back a debt. That's the only reason people become president, to make money. And when you're in that position of power as president, you're open to make millions of dollars or billions of dollars. You understand? Because the United States is a corporation. So give me 1 minute. Because all the stuff I don't know off my head. Some I know, some of the stuff I know, some of the stuff I don't know. So here we have Donald Trump declare bankruptcy 4 or 6 times, right? So we're going to read it. Fact checker. Donald Trump Company has filed for bankrupt. Donald Trump Company has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection, which means a company can remain in business while wiping away many of his debt, So we know that the reason that a lot of people file bankruptcy, Chapter 11, doesn't always mean that they're broke. It's just a way of getting rid of their debt. You understand? So when you hear Donald Trump went bankrupt 6 times, yeah, he only went bankrupt 6 so he can wipe away his debt. You understand? And then after he wiped away his debt, he goes back into borrowing money from his billionaire friends. This is what he does. He borrows money from his billionaire friends, do investments. If they go wrong, file bankruptcy, wipe away his debt, and he's back borrowing money again. You understand? And this puts him in a position of being a puppet for your billionaires that run the world. You understand? So this is what happened when he filed for bankruptcy. This was a tactic to wipe away the debt. It says that the bankruptcy court ultimately approves a corporate budget and a plan to repay remaining debt. Often shareholders lose much of their iniquity. Donald Trump Taj Mahal opened in April 1990 in Atlantic City, but 6 months later default on interest payments to bondholders as his finances went into tailspin. The Washington Post, Robert O. Harrow found in July 1991, Trump's Taj Mahal filed for bankruptcy. He could not keep up with the debt on 2 other Atlantic City casinos, and those 2 properties declared bankruptcy in 1992. A fourth property, the Plaza Hotel in New York, declared bankruptcy in 1992 after amassing debt. You understand? PolitiFact uncovered 2 more bankruptcy filed after 1992, totaling 6. Donald Trump hotels and casino resorts filed for bankruptcy again in 2004, right? After incurring about $1.8 billion in debt. You hear that? $1.8 billion in debt. So he has to pay this back to the people that loaned him the money, because he's not generating this money himself. He has billionaire friends that gives him money so he can make these hotel resort, casinos. You understand? He's a real estate mogul. This is how he do real estate. He uses other people's money, you understand, and he gambles with it. Right? So occurring about $1.8 billion. Trump Entertainment Resort also declared bankruptcy in 2009, being hit hard during the 2008 recession. Why the discrepancy? Perhaps this will give us an idea. Donald Trump told Washington Post reporters that he counted the first 3 bankruptcies as just one. So y'all understand? He was going bankrupt or filing bankruptcy on his hotels and his resorts. And he was filing bankruptcy. So he accumulated $1.8 billion. You understand? So he has to pay this money back. This is the reason why he got in position to be president, because he got to work that debt off. So the people that's in position and power, the global elites, these people that run the corporation that we call the United States, put him in position to be president so he can carry out their agenda. You understand? So those people that he borrowed the money from, he borrowed money from the Rothschilds. And we know that the Rothschilds is one of the biggest banking families in the world. And they also run the Federal Reserve, right? Everybody know about the Rothschild, but I'm gonna give y'all this anyway. Give me 1 minute. So it says, give me 1 minute. So I want y'all to know about the Rothschilds and who they are. Everybody know who they are. But they're one of the 13 families that own the Federal Reserve. And they were the ones that put Donald Trump in presidency because he owed them money. Right? It says the Rothschilds are the famous European banking dynasty of German Jewish origin. Remember, I told you, they're Zionist Jews. The Rothschilds are German Jews, right? Who influence began in the late 18th century from founder Mayer Amschel Rothschild. He sent his 5 sons to establish banking houses in major European cities, creating an international financial network that pioneered across border finance, right? Key Rothschild milestones. The founder, Mayer Amschel Rothschild, 1744, he died in 1812 from the Jewish ghettos of Frankfurt. Mayer Amschel started a rare coin dealer before becoming a court factor or financial manager for the German noble family. It's a key word. So they became bankers for the German noble families. So these noble families are the families that run the world that comes from Britain, right? The Britain has a royal family bloodline. So the Rothschilds was tied in with the German noble family, and they started banking for them. They started off as coin dealers, and then they started banking for the German noble families. It says in 1769, he was granted the title of court agent to Prince William IX of Hesse. See, Prince William IX of Hesse. That's a German noble family. The Rothschilds started banking from them. So they moved from coin dealers to banking for the German noble families. And Meyer Amschel sent 5 of his sons to different parts of Europe to set up banks, and they created a network. You understand? So this is how they got in position and power. It says the 5 sons followed their father's lead. The 5 arrows of the Rothschild dynasty established branches in Europe, major financial city centers. Amschel Rothschild, the eldest, managed the original house in Frankfurt. Solomon Meyer Rothschild found Vienna branch. Nathan Meyer Rothschild moved to England, created the highly successful London branch. Nathan Meyer Rothschild and son. So Nathan Meyer Rothschild, he went to England and started banking for the royal bloodline in Britain. And we know that the 13 colonies were set up here by Britain, so that the Rothschilds ran the 13 colonies back then. So they've been in power for a real long time, ever since the origin of the United States Corporation, right? Carl Meyer Rothschild opened a branch in Naples. James Meyer Rothschild established the Paris branch, de Rothschild Forez. And it says the Napoleon War was financed. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to finish breaking this down, because I'm going to do everything in 30 minutes. So if y'all with me, come back.